Goeienaand en welkom by die Losgemaal. Soos hy altyd sê, dis donderdag aand en is natuurlik tyd om bietjie rugby te gesels. En vanaand se fokus is op Pool D van die Wêreldbeker, maar eerstens ek is nie alleen nie, ek is saam met my goeie vriend Eskom en natuurlik ons goeie vertroueling Reen en Steenekam. Reen en Oma, hoe lekker daar in Bloemfontein.
Engels, dankie. Nee, wat dit gaan goed. Soos jy kan sien, het Eskom vir my ook gefire. So, maar ou maak ons nou maar 'n plan met die dinge. Nee, wat dit gaan goed. Interessante pool wat ons gaan bespreek vanaand, so ek sien uit.
Ja, definitief. Daar was nie baie nuus die week gewees nie, maar daar was 'n interessante verdict gewees. En dis natuurlik ons ou vriend, Owen Farrell, Shoulder Boy as we call him, or Shoulder Boy I should say. World Rugby het basically uitgekom en gesê vir die wat dit gemis het. Ek weet almal weet seker daarvan, maar gesê luister, daar geel kan net so of hy rooi kan net so overturn word nie. Daar moet 'n beter straf wees. En hy het toe 'n 4-match ban gekry en een van die games was een teen Ierland, so dis eintlik nou 3 weke. Hy gaan 2 games mis en is 2 belangrike games ook, ons gaan later daaroor praat. Maar vir 'n repeat offender om so nog steeds so ligte straf te kry, wat dink jy van dit? Ek dink nog steeds hy moes 6 weke ten minste gekry het. En ek voel ook, as ek kan bysê, ek dink die konsep wat wêreld rugby het dat 'n speler vir weke geskort is hier werk. Ek dink hulle moet sê hulle moet hom skors vir 'n paar games. Dit maak dit meer effektief want kom ons sê dalk 'n ou kry 'n rooi kaart in die wêreldbeker finaal. Hy gaan nie weer speel tot die volgende 6 nasies of rugby kampioenskap nie of URC nie. Wat dan? Hulle moet sê okay, hy kry nou 'n 10 weke ban, maar teen 10 weke is hy in elk geval vry om te speel. Moet jy liewer maar sê kom ons maak 'n 10 games nie.
En is net om eerstens te kom by die beginsel dat hy nou wel gestraf is. Hy is te lig gestraf, ek stem met jou saam. Hierdie ou is inderdaad so sê hy's 'n repeat offender. Hierdie ou is hy's 'n thug. Hy's jy weet ek ken hierdie ou as persoon, die ou moet nou versigtig dat jy nou nie sy persoonlikheid inklim. Maar van die naaste ouens se koppe loslaas op daai veld van. En 'n ou moet begin aanvaar, hy is dalk so. Hy weet nie waar om te los nie. En dis nie 'n goeie ding nie. Wat 'n boodskap word uitgestuur, jy weet? Ons het dit al soveel keer gesê, maar ons is in 'n World Cup jaar. Die kykergetalle op televisie, die mense wat hierdie games kyk, is eksponensieel meer as enige ander jaar. Want die fokus is nou op rugby en al wat jy as jy op 'n nuusblad klik op Facebook, dan is dit World Cup en as jy op Instagram gaan, is oral is dit World Cup. En dis al wat mense oor praat. Nou gaan jaag hierdie ou aan op die veld en aanvanklik is daar nie eens vir bestraf nie. Wat 'n boodskap word uitstuur nou gaan my laat jy gaan oefen nou rugby. Owen Farrell is nie gestraf nie. Jy kan maar met die skouer ingaan. Nou maak hy nou seer op die oefenveld. Hy het niks verkeerd gedoen nie. Owen Farrell kan dan. Alraai, dis nou omgedraai. Ons sê dankie daarvoor. Dis nou baie oulik, maar hy is nie swaar genoeg gestraf nie. Ek stem met jou saam. Net anders om te kom by die hoeveelheid weke. Die ding wat ek die laaste tyd optel is wanneer die bepaling gedoen word oor hoe lank 'n speler gestraf word voor. Ek sien baie keer in die verdict wat hulle nou met Farrell gehad het. Hulle sê daar hy's uit vir soveel weke en dit sluit die volgende wedstryde in. So ek dink tog dit word in berekening gebring. Hulle sê nie net straight up 4 weke. Hulle sê 4 weke wat dan die volgende wedstryde sal insluit. Die eerste sê net maar 3 wêreldbeker wedstryde of die laaste friendly voor die wêreldbeker en die eerste 2 groepwedstryde. So ek dink tog om 'n Engelsman se gesegde te gebruik, they do apply their minds. Ek dink tog hulle werk daai games in hulle berekening van hoe lank 'n speler moet uitwees. Maar ja, hy is nie swaar genoeg gestraf nie. Die verkeerde boodskap word nog steeds uitgestuur, maar dit is 'n stap in die regte rigting.
Ja, gepraat van Engels spreken, Dylan Jack, my man, welcome to the show. It's good to have you back on again. How have you been, and what's your take on the Owen Farrell verdict?
Evening everyone. Evening to all the viewers watching. Thanks for having me on again, Angus. Yeah, it's been an interesting one. I think It's been a bit of a circus. It's been more of a circus, though, in Pharaoh thing than what it's needed to be, in all honesty. And it's mostly due to a bit of a rogue initial disciplinary panel of 3 Australians that took charge of the first hearing that Pharaoh is involved in. That really was to blame. They really came to the wrong conclusions. They looked at the wrong things, and it just produced a pretty terrible outcome from the first hearing. But then good on World Rugby for appealing it, and in the end, the main thing is that Pharaoh's been banned, and the referee and the TMO who made the decision to red card Pharaoh haven't been undermined going into the World Cup. Most importantly, this whole bunker review system that World Rugby has introduced before the World Cup to sort of make decisions more accurate, to take pressure off of the referees from making these dangerous tackle decisions, to allow the referees to just focus on sort of the nitty-gritty of the game and not really worry so much about hard tackles. That's also not been undermined. That's quite important, because if you go into, we were looking at the potential of going into a World Cup and this whole new system that the World Rugby has introduced just being totally undermined, just being, they've given Pharaoh a red card, now it's suddenly not a red card. That would have been disastrous. So those are the main things. I mean, you can argue about whether he's been banned for long enough or whether he hasn't been banned for long enough, and there's cases for and against. But I mean, the main thing is that he has been banned, and that England will know now from having Pharaoh banned, from having Vunipola banned. I think he was banned for 3 games. I see there's someone asking about that there. He's been banned for 3 games, I think. So he'll miss, I think it's because there's a Fiji game this weekend, he'll sit out that and he'll sit down England's first 2 pool games. But Vunipola, unlike Pharaoh, can go to World Rugby's tackle school. Pharaoh can't do that because he's already done that. So Vunipola can have his ban reduced by 1 game, but he will definitely miss that big opening game for England against Argentina. Yeah.
Look, Dylan, I mean, we always talk about consistency, and to me, again, like you just mentioned now as well, it took a circus basically to actually get to the right verdict. When these guys look at the framework of what is dangerous, what is needed, and then you can come in here as well, needed for a ban. I mean, you look at Owen Farrell as a whole, except for the incident itself, look at his track record, look at what he's done before. How many times have been to tackle school? I mean, has not learned anything. And for instance, like if the Aussie panel said, okay, but he's cleared to play, then World Rugby has to intervene to protect themselves because they are so serious about head contact and concussions. I mean, don't they get the same framework to work with? Like, what was the actual thinking to giving him, firstly, free rein and then going back to say, okay, well, World Rugby says, listen, guys, this is not going to work. We have to actually ban this guy.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Again, as I say, I think main thing is that Pharaoh has been banned. It shouldn't have taken the circus. The initial outcome really should have been Owen Farrell gets a ban. And I was, one of the things I was very surprised by, as you mentioned, was that his previous disciplinary record didn't seem to factor in so much when I was reading a bit of the sort of the summary of the judgment. I don't think the actual judgment's been published by Six Nations, which is quite weird. I think Six Nations is fighting against publishing the actual full outcome like they usually do. But when I was reading the summary on sort of the summary that England Rugby had put out, they didn't make there wasn't any sort of mention of Farrell's previous record coming in. And weirdly, Farrell got a mitigation because of his, I think because they took in sort of a guilty plea or something and early admittance or something like that, which is weird because Farrell initially fought against the ban in their first hearing, but that's just another thing that they probably have to look at as well.
Angus, if I can just add here to what to what Dylan has said, and I have to fully agree with him. His record is shocking. It's shocking. He's a repeat offender. If Bakkies Botha had this scene, in England, Farrell is seen as a hard man. Okay, he's seen as one of the tougher players, and the amount of support that he's been receiving on social media. Now, I want to interrupt myself here. You must be careful very careful to attach any value to social media, but it's a good indicator of what the population think of a situation. And the amount of support that he's received is astonishing. And in that same breath, if this is Bakkies, he wouldn't even been on the plane. He would have played rugby in 2025 again. It's double standards. It's sickening.
Yeah, I guess we can talk about it for an eternity if you look back to SA players getting bans in other countries in comparison. But also this week's news, World Rugby revealed the referees for the Rugby World Cup pool matches. Our very own Jaco Paper opening, doing the match of France and New Zealand. Normally, I think when a referee opens a match, he tends to also go into the World Cup final if his country is not involved. So I think it's a big honor for him. And then also there will be the match of Argentina and England will be Matthew Reynal, and then SA's match will be Ben O'Keefe. Three very good referees, but Renan, you can start on this one. Jaco Paper for the first match. What are your thoughts on that?
Ja, baie groot eer vir hom, Angus. Ek is baie bly hy die game gekry. Ek is 'n baie groot fan van hom. Dit is 'n uitstekende skeieregter. However, you need to have a look at the two assistant referees, both from England. Like you just said, if you cast your eye forward to the final, and should England not be in the final, one of those two assistant referees may well take the whistle in the final, depending on who the opposing team is. So you need to cast the net slightly wider than that, but very happy for Jaco, and you will surely understand if we say that we hope he does not officiate the final because the Boks are there, but we'll see how that plays out. But they couldn't have asked for a better referee to open the showpiece. There's no doubt.
Dylan, Jaco Paper has probably been the best referee of the KQB, in my opinion, for South Africa. I don't think anyone better has actually cross paths in the last what year is it now, like 7-8 years. So I mean, for him to open this match is quite a big honor, and also testament to South African referees as a whole. But your thoughts on him for that match? I mean, New Zealand is involved, and I mean, there's always a conspiracy theory that SA has to undermine New Zealand and vice versa. Do you think that should the result not go New Zealand's way, they'll actually use that card, or do you think that he will just have a good game and just do what he has to do?
Well, firstly, hopefully he has a good game. We hope that we don't have to talk referees so much in this World Cup. I mean, we want to keep it on the rugby. We don't necessarily always want to have a moan at the referee. Sometimes we have to because the scores aren't so great. But great honor for Jaco Paper. Awesome to see a South African referee, a very experienced South African referee coming through. I think at the moment South Africa's most experienced referee currently with a whistle coming through and handling such a big match. It's going to be a massive game for him. Big pressure. Refereeing, I think it's at the Stade de France, New Zealand against France, and we know how partisan the French crowd can get, and hopefully there's an actual TMO to support him this time, unlike when South Africa last played France. Hopefully he gets good support there from his officiating team, and hopefully he goes on to handle a sort of a semi-final, maybe even the final. What a big honor that would be for him. But I mean, hopefully he just has a great game. I just hope that we don't have to see a lot of criticism this time of referees, because we want to keep it on the players and what amazing things they're doing or not so good things they're doing. But hopefully we don't have too many controversies coming out.
Yeah, hopefully not. I mean, we've seen controversies in World Cups. Remember the game of Wales where Sam Warburton got sent off, so we don't want to go back to any of that. But the last few weeks, we have been teaching you some French, and I'm going to ask my friend Yuna to come in here because I'm not any good at French. I think I botched the last one as well last week. So the first one we had was Bonjour, ça va, and that basically means hello, how are you, or hello, hoe gaan dinge. Rhiannon, I'll leave the next one to you and the last one as well. So yeah, that's the second one.
Ja, Angus, is eintlik baie makliker om dit te praat as om dit te hoor, want glo my, dit is moeilik om hulle te verstaan. Hulle praat baie vinnig. Maar très bien, merci beteken dit gaan baie goed, dankie. Or very well, thank you. En dan as jy nou by die game is en dit raak nou lekker en jou bier is op en jy wil nog geen hê, dan vra jy j'achète de la bière, waar kan ek 'n bier koop of waar kan ek 'n bier kry? En as die bier dan nou te veel raak en die seël moet gebreek word, so to speak, dan sê jy, hoe sê jy hoe les toilet? Waar is die naaste badkamer? Where is the nearest toilet? En dan gaan hy vir jou verduidelik en dan gaan jy nie woord verstaan wat hy sê nie, maar it's worth a shot. So ja, dis maar die bietjie Frans vir vanaand.
So interesting, guys. And of course, our main topic tonight is Pool D, consisting of England, Argentina, Japan, Samoa, and Chile. So now, the referee for that match will be Matthew Reinal, and one would think that both England and Argentina should make it out of their pools. I mean, looking at the last weeks or the last couple of months' results, Japan is a shadow of what they were in 2019. Samoa, I think they didn't see this off air as well before the show started. They might write off a play or two, but they won't get anywhere near playoff. And Chile, well, they'll be there for entertainment purposes. So it's a game that either side can afford to lose, and they should win the other games. But firstly, let's start with England. I think they are in bigger trouble than they actually want to admit they are, because I mean, they fight Eddie Jones. They got Steve Broadwick in now, and it's just not been good. They beaten Wales last week, but the week before, or the 2 weeks ago, but the week before they lost to them. And I mean, SA pumped Wales the past week, so they haven't been convincing at all. They've won games, and when they did, they weren't convincing. And they lost games they probably should have never lost in the first place. You look at their team; they don't have bad player personnel, but they just don't seem to be clicking at the moment. Dylan, what are your thoughts on England at the moment?
Yeah, it's not looking good at the moment for England. Even when they're winning, as you say, they're not looking exceptional. They don't do too many things. They do a lot of things either average or sort of just below average. They do a lot of things. They don't do a heck of a lot of things towards an exceptional standard, which is worrying a couple of weeks out from the World Cup, that they're not really hitting their stride yet. And they could. I mean, when you look at the pool that they're in, they could very much ugly rugby their way through the pool. I think Samoa's got to be a bit of a threat for them. They could easily slip up in that one. I wouldn't write Samoa off yet from causing an upset. I think they've got a solid group of players there. We'll have to see what they do against Japan and Chile, obviously. But yeah, I think England could ugly the way to a quarterfinal. Then it's anyone's game. But it's just the personnel that they have. They have good players. But then you're seeing talk of perhaps playing Marcus Smith as a fullback, which I don't quite understand. I know he's a great counter-attacking player, but I mean, playing him at fullback against Argentina, who love putting the ball up in the air. They got great kicker in Boffelli. I don't see the thinking around that. That's just going to beg Argentina to kick onto Marcus Smith when England do have Freddie Stewart as well. But I mean, it is worrying times. And then I just saw today that they've had a couple players ruled out. I think Anthony Watson, one of them, ruled out of the World Cup, and that's a big blow for them. So, and they're going to be missing Billy Vunipola and Owen Farrell for that Argentina game. So it's looking a bit troublesome at the moment for England.
No, definitely looking towards disaster at the moment. You're quite right here, Dylan. Rhiannon, dink jy dat Engeland rugby as 'n geheel die fout van hulle lewe gemaak het om vir Eddie Jones te laat gaan verlede jaar? En ek dink nog steeds Eddie Jones se plan was aantrek geweest vir die Wêreldbeker, hulle het hom laat gaan, en ek dink enige coach wat inkom 'n jaar of 'n paar maande voor die Wêreldbeker, hy gaan nie veel kan doen nie. So jy kan nie vir Steve Broadwick eintlik blameer vir enige van die results as much, maar jou gedagte rondom dit, ek dink nog steeds dat Eddie Jones kon dalk die ou gewees het om te sê, okay, ek gaan dalk 'n paar dips vang hier en daar, maar kom Wêreldbeker gaan ek vir julle ding wys. En nou moet hy oor begin persoonlik, en Engeland moet nou van scratch af begin ook.
Agus, voor ek jou antwoord, there was a viewer asking a question about the box center Perry. I think his name is Stuart Isdale. Stuart, we're gonna turn our attention to the box once we've completed our conversation regarding this pool. So stay put. We're definitely going to answer your question. You can bank on that. Engeland is op hiding to nothing. Eddie Jones is hulle het 'n groot fout gemaak om te laat gaan. Ek het dit daai tyd gesê en daai het niks gebeur om my tot ander insigte te bring. Jy weet, ou moet kyk na klein goedjies. wat 'n simptoom is van 'n groter siekte. En dit was nogals wyd verspreid gewees in die nuusoutlets. Daai waar daai een Engelse losspeler 'n vispamp gedoen het toe die Ire 'n lynstaan bal skeef ingegooi het. Wat 'n unforced error was. Wat basically gebeur het is Ierland het op hulle eie voete getrip en daai Engelsman het dit as 'n mini victory beskou. Nou mini victories is as jy 'n skram omgedraai kry op die eie 5-2-lyn. Of as jy die hele game pak kry op die breakdowns en jy draai daai ding om en jy vat hulle bal af en jy draai die momentum van die game. Dis mini victories. Dit kan jy vier. Ek stem absoluut saam. Dit bou dit draai 'n game. Jy vispamp nie as 'n ander ou die bal skeef in die lyn aangooi want jy het net mooi niks gedoen om dit teweeg te bring. En dis waar Engeland rugby nou is. Hulle is op 'n baie slegte plek. And I want to also add to what Dylan now said with Marcus Smith at 50. That's nothing short of brain dead. That guy is a brilliant thing. Brilliant. And indeed, now you're putting him up out of his normal position with a charging De La Fuente at him. Well, good luck for that. I'm just so glad I'm not him because that's going to be a hiding. So nee, Angus, Engeland, ek kan nie onthou. Wanneer laas ek vir Engeland so swak rugby gesien. En so nie rugby, in so slegte spasie gesien soos wat hulle nou is. Ek kan nie onthou nie. Ek dink nie Engeland was al ooit so swak.
Ek dink persoonlik Reen in Engeland laat my dink aan die Springbok van 2016 en 2017. That's the best comparison I can make at the moment. But Dylan, Argentina, I mean, they haven't always gotten the results in the rugby championship, but they've been competitive. They beat Australia. They didn't get close to the All Blacks or South Africa, but in saying that, they've always been competitive. And they will remain competitive. They are a good side. They got world-class players, and I think they are probably the favorites to top this pool, but where do you see them actually getting the edge over everyone else?
I think it's been a really good few years for Argentina. They seem to have found a really good fit with Michael Cheika as coach. He seems to really, I know he's quite a fiery coach, but he seems to really fit in there with the Argentinian players, found a home there, which is awesome. But yeah, I mean, look at the results that they've gotten sometimes. Beating New Zealand last year, beating Australia recently a couple of times. Missed out on an opportunity to beat the Boks at home this year, but then going and beating England at Twickenham. I mean, massive. That was absolutely massive for Argentina, going over there and beating England at their home ground. Man, that was a big victory for them. So yeah, I think quite easily this is one of the most talented teams they've ever had. That probably goes back to 2007 when they had the likes of Contepomi and those guys when they made the semi-final. So they could easily be right on track for a semi-final run this year. I wouldn't be surprised.
You know, you actually answered my next question. I was going to ask Rhiannon because I looked at this pool and I thought to myself, you know what, 2007, they actually came third in the World Cup. And they are very much on track to actually make a quarter and a semi as well. And I mean, playing in the Rugby Championship since 2012, being in Super Rugby for a short time, even making a final against Crusaders back, I think it was 2019. I mean, that was massive for them as well as a country. And Rhiannon, to me, it's just like they should somewhere upset the apple cart. Surely they can even make a final with this team they have, because like Dylan said as well, now they are so talented. They got guys like Bufeli, Imhoff, all those guys. Their pack is the only concern I would feel at the moment. Their pack is not the old Argentinian pack that we used to know that used to like get the ball in and just cram over everybody. But the backline has been phenomenal for the last couple of years. But what's your take on Argentina in this pool?
Yeah, you know, Angus, what is not to like about these Argentinians? They're just such a joy to watch. Hulle voorspelers is nie wat hulle was nie. Jy's heeltemal reg, maar ek dink hulle maak baie op daarvoor met hulle agterlyn. Jy weet jy het nou gewoon Imhoff genoem. Daai ou is goeie rooiwyn. Hy laat my baie dink aan nou die Fransman se naam gaan uit my kop uit. Hulle een senter wat ook al vir ewig speel, maar hy raak net bitter. Dis nie asof hy ouer raak nie. Nou gewoon Imhoff is baie goed voorbeeld daarvan. Hy is very much in die mix daai ou. Hy speel uitstekende rugby. De La Fuente dieselfde. De La Fuente begin dalk het nie vir my meer so baie, hy het baie keer op die bank, maar Imhoff is nog very much 'n starter. Daai agterlyn van hulle is vol talent. en vol spoed. En hulle staan vir niemand en niks terug. As jy gaan kyk na die game op Ellis Park nou die dag. Hulle het ons blerrie amper gestaan. En op Ellis Park vir alle velde om dit op reg te kry. Dit wys jou waar Argentinië is. And just to also refer to their coach Michael Cheika, who actually resonates very well with the hot-bloodedness of hot-headedness, maybe also of the South Americans. I think that Latin American blood, for some reason, he's got some of that. En dit werk vir hom. Dit werk vir hom. Hulle vind hy en daai spelers het mekaar gevind, jy kan dit duidelik sien. And I want to ask Dylan a question here, Angus, if I may. Dylan, am I right in saying that Michael Cheika has often failed to keep himself out of the news? He was always trying to create a story or something. This last year, maybe even more, he's kept himself out of the news. I get the idea that these guys are so focused and they just focusing on the next game and they're training incredibly hard and they're preparing. This guy, I can't remember when last I saw Michael Cheika when last I saw a quote of him anywhere. He's dead quiet, which spells danger. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree. It helps that it does help that there's less media focus on the Argentinians than what there is on the Wallabies. For example, when you're in that Wallabies hot seat, there's people coming for you all the time. And I mean, sometimes Rugby Australia has its own troubles as well, which puts pressure onto you. So I think when you're in that Wallabies chair, it's a bit more difficult than to deal with the media than what it is when you're in the Argent. But you're absolutely right. He's staying very quiet. He's not really saying controversial things anymore, as he used to when he was Wallabies coach, and it all indicates that he's really focused on getting this Argentinian team prepared. Of course, we all know that eventually players tend to get frustrated with Cheika's method sometimes, with the fact that he always wants 120% all the time, and tries to get the guys fired up all the time, and it eventually wears off on players, eventually wears the players down. So I think Argentina's eventually going to get to a point, but I don't think they're going to get to that point yet. I think he's still got the Argentinians happy. I think he's found a natural fit there, as I said when I started this. So I really think it's going to click at the World Cup.
Dylan, I want to stick with Argentina, and I think the one banana peel for them maybe is discipline. And in particular, I don't want to single anyone out, but I have to here. Thomas Lavanini. He has been a thorn in their flesh for a long time, and I just hope for their sake he doesn't concede a yellow or red card, because I think he's like, what, on 8 now? I mean, I think it was last year we played Argentina. I think it was in Durban. There was a group of kids having a poster saying, they call me 007 with his photo next to it. 0 World Cup, 0 Rugby Championship, 7 yellow cards. It's not a good look for him, but he's still a key part of the system. He's still a cog in the system, and they need him. But in saying that, he's actually been squeaky clean this year. He's actually not been getting into any trouble. So I think maybe Cheika got to him and said, listen, mate, if you actually want to make it work in this team, you have to watch your discipline, watch your tackles, don't do silly stuff. But, I mean, is that the one thing that might actually hinder them from making a potential semi-final?
Yeah, it would be discipline. Obviously, worth looking at Lavanini, as you say, he's had quite the record, hasn't he, over the past, both for club and country. But yeah, I think he is on. He seems to be on the last chance now with Cheika, because he has kept himself surprisingly clean over the past sort of 6 to 12 months. He hasn't really gotten, not for his club and not for Argentina either. He hasn't really been yellow carded, so that's where he's going to have to keep himself on that fine line. Well, because he is an important player, as you say. He's the enforcer. He's the guy who hits the breakdowns. He's the guy who makes the big tackles. He's the guy who gets them going. So yeah, I think discipline is going to be very important for Argentina. Just watching themselves and making sure that they put their foot on the line, but don't go over it, as they usually do.
Most definitely, Dylan. Rhiannon, ek wil net vanaf praat oor Japan, met al twee van julle. So, dink jy dat die honeymoon is verby? Dink jy dat 2015 se glorious wen oor die Springbokke en 2019 se quarterfinal, dis iets in die verlede, maar Waar dink jy het verkeerd gegaan vir hulle, want hulle het gelyk well on track om weer 'n force te wees. Hulle was gepromote vanaf T2 na T1 Nation. Nou lyk dit my is terug na hulle ou self toe. En nie in 'n goeie manier nie.
Ja, Engels nie, ek dink hulle bubble is gebars, jy weet. As jy gaan kyk na hulle onlangse results, daar's nie results nie. Hulle het baie games verloor. By die huis ook. Sommige in Japan. Ek dink dit is 'n kombinasie van twee goed, Engels. Hulle is uitgefigure. Maar as ek sê hulle is uitgefigure, wil ek eintlik dit uitbrei om te sê hulle was so onlangs soos 2019 nog onderskat. Hulle word nou deur niemand meer onderskat. Nooit nie eers in enige game. En dit wys. En hulle het hierdie vermoë om uit te styg en kompeterend te bly in 'n situasie waar alles gebring word teen. Hulle kan nie, hulle het dit nie. En die tweede rede hoekom ek dink hulle nie meer 'n faktor is hulle het nie meer die spelers nie. Jy weet, as jy gaan kyk na daai span wat die Springbokke geklop het, daai ou van die Highlanders wat daai jaar het hulle die Super Rugby gewen en hy het nog iets bereik daai jaar en toe klop hy die Springbokke met met die Japan span. Toe 4 jaar later het baie van daai spelers was toe nog nie te oud. Hulle was nog best fit, hulle was fighting fit en alright, doen hulle goed by daai wêreldbeker ook. Weliswaar in Japan, maar ek meen die game word tussen 4 lyne gespeel, gee hulle krediet. Hulle het Ierland en Skotland gestamp en ek dink nie enigiemand het enige van daai twee results gesien kom nie. Maar nou is die honeymoon lankal. En hulle het nie meer die skietgoed, hulle het nie meer die spelers nie. Jy kan ook gaan kyk die hoeveelheid imports wat hulle gehad het oor die jare, nê? Ouens wat van Nieu-Seeland af en van Australië af en wat 'n Japaneese ouma gehad het of 'n ding en dan kry hulle burgerskap of hulle word verkies, hulle kan gekies word en dan gaan hulle en dan speel daai ouens toe rugby. Fair enough, die reëls is daar gebruik. Maar hulle het nie meer van daai spelers nie. Ek weet nie of daar nie net nie nou 'n generasie spelers is wat deurkom nie, waarskynlik nie. Maar hulle het nie meer die skiet goed nie. Ek is jammer, ja, dit is verby. Daai babbeltjie is oor.
Dylan, we're going to touch on something now, and I actually wanted to get to this, and that is the fact that apart from the amount of players that plays for Japan that might have some sort of heritage, or even the World Rugby laws changed now as well from 3 years to 5 years residency. I think that also has an influence now on guys going to Japan. But now you also have this influx of top-tier test players going over there to make a quick buck, taking a sabbatical. Do you think it, like for France as well, historically, do you think it actually hinders the development of Japanese rugby? There's too many foreign players now in their teams as opposed to years before, that the guys that are actually like from Japan, the actual Japanese people don't get the shot they actually deserve at the point in time.
Yeah, that's a bit of a double-edged sword, because when you're bringing guys, obviously experienced internationals in, they bring a certain standard to these clubs. Obviously, when you're bringing a Willie Leroux or a Damien de Lendi into your clubs, they do raise the standard of those clubs, because those players can see, okay, this is how you train, this is how you live as a professional, this is how you do things as a top level professional. But then on the other side of things is that there's not so much investment into the local players as well. When you're spending these millions and millions into bringing these foreign internationals in, the South Africans, the New Zealanders, the Richie Mo'ungas, the Bode Barretts, all the rest of them, Damien de Lendi. It is a bit of a double-edged sword, as I say. It's a difficult one, because you want to bring these players and you want to see them they bring in a lot of interest as well. The fans want to go and see them. They want to watch these guys play for their clubs. But then they also sort of hinder the local players as well, because these players don't get as much of an on-field opportunity. There's not so much investment there. So it is a difficult one, a difficult situation there.
And I want to add to that as well, because you know French rugby quite well. And for many years, I mean, a team like Toulon has imported guys like Brian Bannerbuck, Juwan Smith at one stage. They had Johnny Wilkinson. They had basically a whole World 15 and they won trophies. But it's also at the point in time where French rugby was in deep trouble. And Dylan mentioned this as well now. So do you think that maybe it's a case of balancing the act more than anything else, and not have too many foreign guys in the team, but maybe 1 or 2, and then just focusing on developing your own as well?
It's a difficult balancing act, which took France a long time, many years, to finally reach a point where it's regulated. I definitely don't think that's the case in Japan. But Angus, I want to add another factor to this, and we can't stand still on this too long. But the fact that the Sunwolves aren't playing rugby anymore, Super Rugby specifically, that's also very telling. You had those guys pitted against the best that the other four countries, Argentina, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, had. You had them playing against them, home and away. So these guys got used to travel. They got used to playing against the likes of plenty. Kieran Reid and the likes. They played against them every week. Now that was taken away from you. And that we're seeing that. We're definitely seeing it. You can only play against your countrymen for so long. Then you're going to stagnate. And this is now happening in Japan. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and to wrap this pool up, I'm not going to talk about Chile at all because I don't think they're much of a factor. But Dylan also mentioned at the start of the show that Samoa could be a dark horse. And if you look at that Samoan team, I'm not quite sure about all the names, but I know a guy like Lima Sapawanga, Stephen Luatua, to mention a few former All Blacks. They are stacked with quite a bit of experience. But Dylan, do you feel that it's at the point in time with these guys, yes, they've made a name. Some of them even won World Cups, they won Rugby Championships before with other teams. But it's a case of these countries that are normally tier 2 countries, they're getting the scraps of the best they could have had in yesteryears, as opposed to getting the best out of those players that they actually had to dispose of in the first place.
Not necessarily. I think they're getting good players into these teams. I mean, Stephen Luatua is still a world-class player. You look at Ben Lam; he's still a very, very good wing that they've just brought in, and they're mixing these guys in with guys who have it's all going to depend on how quickly the guys that they've brought in, the former All Blacks that they've brought in, it depends on how quickly they click with the guys that have already been there, because you've seen sometimes when you get the balance wrong and when you bring in too many guys from the outside and there's too few guys who have been there and done that, it sort of results in an imbalance. So it's all going to depend on how quickly they click, how quickly they form together. But the signs are quite good for Samoa. I really do think they could cause at least one upset in this pool. I wouldn't be surprised if they cause an upset there.
And then if that upset should occur, who do you think it is? And I have a pretty good idea you'll say England, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
Yeah,
why do you think so?
I just think England firstly don't have the depth that they think they have. I think if they go into Samoa with a sort of a weakened side, if you will, then they could be stunned. Yeah. I don't think they have the depth to be able. And if they're playing sort of all their first teamers all through the pool, they're also going to struggle there. So I think Samoa, England, you could see an upset there.
I mean, if you look back in 2011, I think the Boks won by 13 points to 5. It wasn't a lot, and that was a normal full stack Samoa team against a decent Bok team. So it's not a team you should take lightly any day of the week if you think about it. So most definitely, it's something you can say, okay, I can throw my second team in there, but also, do I actually want to risk it? Do I maybe go with a second starting team and have a good bench? I remember 2007 SA versus Tonga. They almost lost that game. They won by 30 points to 25. So those small nations in the World Cup can upset anyone at any day of the week. But to finish up that pool, I'm going to talk about Chile. I don't think there's much to talk about there. Tomorrow evening, 8:30, guys, it's again the replay of the old foes. It is SA versus New Zealand. And New Zealand didn't come to play. They came to actually make a statement. They beat South Africa by a decent margin at the start of the Rugby Championship. They came in with a good team now. And also, interestingly enough, 6-2 split on the bench, as South Africa did as well. Only recognized guys, so Cam Roygaard of the Highlanders and Anthony Brown of the Chiefs. And otherwise, they have like 6 forwards on the bench as well. Interesting selection as well, as they have Richie Mo'unga at 10. They got Beauden Barrett at 15, Jody Barrett at 12. So they got like 3 playmakers in there. Rhiannon, your take on this All Black team. What do you think will actually be the key to actually unlocking the defense for the Springboks? And where do you think they will win the game against the Boks as well?
This is a strong All Black team, All Black 23. You know, we've long since moved past only the 15 guys that start. A weak spot, Sam Kane. Again, we should target him. Ons moet hom stil speel, want hy verdwyn as dit moeilik raak. Hy's een van daai spelers, jy sien hom nie. As dit begin tight raak, dan hy man, hy raak weg. Ons moet hom laat wegraak. Ons moet hy laat wegraak, dat ons sy kanaal kan aanval. Dan trek ons nog defenders. Baie geuite uitdrukking, baie ou beginsel, maar dit werk. So for me in that All Black team, I think we can match them with a tight 5. We can definitely match them, if not be better. But that won't be telling. For me, we need to definitely target Sam Kane mercilessly. And we can go from there.
Dylan, in the last meeting between these sides, there was one thing that stood out to me, and that's the fact that I think the Boks, if they did, it probably was once or twice. But I didn't see them contest the lineouts, which was very, very uncharacteristic for me for the Boks. Do you think they held something back, and maybe they will actually do it this time against the All Blacks? Because I mean, they got the lock pairing of Eben Etzebeth and Franco Mostert. They hasn't played together in quite a while, but Franco has been used as a utility more than anything else lately, and mostly coming off the bench as a loose forward. So do you think that maybe this is the time they're going to actually contest the lineups? Look at the lineup. They got Peter Steptoe as well. The Vermeulen can jump into the lineup as well. So do you think it's an area they'll actually go to and say, well, we're going to target you guys this week on this, or be the same as it was the last time back in Auckland?
Yeah, I think there are signs that they could do that. I mean, there was, like you, I was very surprised how little they targeted and jumped at the All Blacks lineout, and whether, I don't know whether that was them holding something back. It seemed to be that, or whether they just didn't decode it quick enough. But it's awesome to see Franco Mostert back at number 5 lock, which I think is his best position. I think that's his primary position. I think he's a number 5 lock who can play at number 7 if needed. But he's certainly I think we're going to see a much better test from Franco Mostert, because he has struggled a little bit at blindside, and I think that's because we've been asking Franco Mostert to do things that he's not necessarily the best at. Like Peter Steptoe is good at certain things, very, very good at certain things that Franco Mostert isn't necessarily good at. And Franco Mostert is brilliant at doing the sort of the dark arts in that number 5 lock position. He's good at doing a lot of the donkey work. He's good at working very, very close to the breakdown. I don't think he's as good playing in the wider channels as Peter Steptoe perhaps is. Like we saw, I mean, you saw that Peter Steptoe defensive read recently against Wales, where he latched that ball out in the 22, intercepted and galloped up the field. I don't think Franco Mostert's good at that sort of stuff. I think Franco does a lot of other things very, very well. So I'm hoping that he puts in a very good shift this week on Friday.
Rhiannon, the talk about last week was not so much the win, but it was the performance of Manie Libbok off the tee. And he missed quite a few easier kicks, and it's been something he's been ridiculed for, and probably with good reason as well. We're not going to score 8 tries against All Blacks. Let's be frank about that. We have scored 8 against Wales. We're not going to score 8 against All Blacks. And these are these games where you want your number 10 or your goal kicker for that matter to actually slot them 90% at least. I think it's on something like 50%, 57% or 56% at the moment now. Going into a World Cup, area of concern, it's something that, you know, many Springbok fans has been concerned about. And do you think there's a backup plan for him as well? Should he also have an off day with the boot as well this weekend?
Well, Angus, I definitely hope there's a backup plan. I did see, and I dare say, Dylan, it was SA Rugby magazine that posted late this afternoon, that he's been slotting them from all over the place at the stoop in practice this afternoon. And the stoop is right next to Twickenham. It's not Twickenham itself, but it's as good as it's going to get in terms of practice. So I do think he's got his groove back. I hope it's true. Well, they won't post stuff that's not true, but that translates tomorrow. That's actually what I'm trying to get at. As sy oog in is, dan skop hy al die missie Engels. Jy weet dit goed, jy het dit al met jou eie oë baie gesien. Die feit dat hy vandag in oefening goed geskop het, sê vir my, hy gaan môre aand skop. Hy gaan die skoppe oorsit. But if I'm wrong, and he doesn't get it right tomorrow evening. The problem with a team like the All Blacks is you cannot afford to miss your first, let's say you missed 2 out of your first 3 kicks, okay? And now you say, okay, look, all right, Damien, you need to take the kicks from here. For example, you've already missed those kicks. Let's say it's 5 points you missed. You missed a penalty and you missed a conversion. Those 5 points, usually against a team like the All Blacks, is telling. You lose the game by 5 or less. So that's a bit of a risk, but this is not a World Cup game. I don't want to get too philosophical here. But I actually want to get to that centre pairing, and I do hope your next question is that, because I've got a very big theory on that, but we'll get there now. To answer your question, I've got full confidence in Mane to do the job tomorrow evening. We'll see if I'm right or wrong. I think he's going to surprise everybody and he's going to do the job.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one as well, because I've seen him. I'll never forget that game against Ulster where the Stormers, I think he missed 2 easy conversions at the start, and then he nailed one from the touchline to actually get them into the final. So it's one of those things where he can actually step up when he needs to. But even I think it was 2012 when Heineken Meyer took over, and I might be under correction. It's been a long time now, but off the top of my head, Mornestein missed 5 penalty kicks at goal that day, 15 points. They lost that game by 21 points to 11. So even a guy like Mornestein can have an off day and come back and be great as well. Mane is still young. He still has a lot to learn, and I'm sure he'll actually pick up his form again. But on to your next question, I want to bring Dylan into this one as well. Kane Moody at outside centre. Probably the hardest position to defend in channel-wise in the back line. But what I've seen in the last 2 weeks has been nothing short of exceptional. He's hits on defense. He's spot on with his hits. He drives guys back. He comes in from the outside. I think he could be the guy for the Springboks going forward at number 13. What are your thoughts on Kane Moody at that position?
Is that me? Sorry. Yeah. In terms of Moody at 13, I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how he adapts. I've loved what I've seen from Kane Moody out on the wing defensively. That I really, really have enjoyed, especially his defense, the way he's adjusted to the system very, very quickly. For a 20-year-old coming in, being asked to defend in the Springbok system, which isn't an easy one. Jacques Nienaber's defensive system is not an easy one for youngsters to grasp. We saw when the Boks started under Erasmus, under Rassie and Nienaber in 2018, we saw how the wingers struggled defensively. We saw Dianti, and I think it was Nkosi that started those first couple of tests against England, how they really, really struggled to adjust. And Moody's just handled it so well. I'm really excited to see how he copes at outside. So it's obviously a very, very different thing being asked of him to defend at 13 against a world-class player like Rico Ioane on attack, world-class attacking player. But I think we're going to have to be patient with this one because, a 20-year-old doesn't just become a 20-year-old wing doesn't just evolve automatically into a brilliant outside centre. It doesn't just happen. Rico Ioane needed 3 or 4 years to become the outside centre that he is right now. Players don't just jump in and become automatic, amazing outside centers at international rugby. So we're going to have to be patient with him. We're going to have to let him, if he makes mistakes, we're going to have to let him make those mistakes. If we want to see him truly reach his potential, because this is, I think, his future position. This is where Kane Moody is going to hit his heights as a top-level professional. I was talking to Jake quite a few months back and for a magazine article on Kane Moody, and Jake White said to me back then, this is where we see his future. His future is going to be at number 13.
Nah, I fully agree with you there, Dylan. And I know you wanted to talk about this as well. And Dylan mentioned this too. Long-term wise, I think this is actually the way to go for him. I think we don't have a backup for Lukanya per se. And we've been looking for one for quite some time now. And I think Kane could just be that guy for Lukanya now, especially now they're starting the World Cup as well.
Angus, I've got a completely different view on this. While you guys are spot on in the characteristics that you listed for Kane and why he's suitable at 13, and he ticks all those boxes, I agree with that. He may well be the long-term option at 13, That may well be so. But I think that is not the reason at all he's playing a 13-year. The meticulous planning that Rassie Erasmus and Jacques Nienaber are known for. People will think that this is a last-minute fine-tuning before the World Cup begins. Fine-tuning is long since been done. These guys know exactly what each player can and cannot bring, where the player is going to play, against whom, and what. They've got this whole thing figured out. I say it's mind games that they're playing with the opposition, not tomorrow's opposition, but teams that we're going to play against. Spanne wat ons later in die World Cup gaan kry, Ierland, Skotland, Die boodskap wat Rassie hiermee uitstuur is, julle het geen idee wat ons met hierdie agterlyn gaan doen. Julle kan nie voorberei vir ons nie. Julle het geen idee wat ons gaan bring nie. Kyden Moody gaan 'n helse goeie game teen die All Blacks hê. Hoor nou wat ek vir jou sê, Hy gaan 'n moerse goeie game speel. Hy mag dalk een tackle laat deur, gaan almal doen dit gebeur. Hy gaan 'n moerse goeie game speel. En die boodskap wat uitgestuur gaan word aan Ierland en Skotland en wie ook al daarna gaan wees, you guys have got zero idea what we bring. Get ready. That's what I think. I think this is solely a message that's being sent.
So I think we're working with a last-minute team announcement for the World Cup now, as I normally do as well. Guys, just a last thing on the Springboks as well. Can we just applaud Siya Kolisi for his comeback against Wales? I think that was... I've never seen in my life a guy coming back after injury, especially a knee injury, and playing like a man possessed. It was like he was never injured before. It was like he's been playing for weeks now. I mean, did he see a spiritual heal or something? Because that was actually miraculous of what he did there. Dylan, your take on Siya Kolisi this past weekend? I was actually super impressed, to be honest. I got no words for it.
Yeah, that was special. That was a very, very special performance. That was a message of intent from Siya Kolisi. That was him saying, "I'm back. I don't have any worries about my knee. I'm going to play whether my knee holds up or not. I'm going to make this World Cup and I'm going to make it my own." That was a message sent from Siya Kolisi. One of the things that impressed me the most was when it was some moment halfway through the first half where Jesse Kriel made a defensive misread, I think, and Siya Kolisi had to chase back this Wales wing who had made a break on the right wing, and he chased him down. He literally, you could see he had. That is where you see whether a player has a worry about an injury or not, is when he has to really hit his pace and really start running back and chase back. And Siya Kolisi did that. This was really him saying, "I'm back. I'm here to lead the Boks at the World Cup." And it was a really, really fantastic performance. It was good to see him really just emptying the tank completely and having full faith that his knee is going to hold up, because it's difficult. I mean, it was only 119 days since he underwent that surgery. To come back that quickly from that kind of a surgery and have full trust in his knee, I was really, really impressed.
No, most definitely. Rhiannon, Siya's effect on the team has been massive. Do you think that his return now, just his presence in the team, not just on the sidelines as a water boy, anything like that, but being in the team, being the captain on the field? He got 40 minutes last week. He might get the 50 or 60 this week against the All Blacks. But do you think his presence now for his teammates will actually lift the Springboks to the normal heights they are used to? Because, I mean, it's not been the best season without him. Let's be honest about it. But it seems like now that he's back, they actually found their groove again.
No, there's no doubt about it. He brings it. He brings it, but in more than one sense. Like Dylan said, that's 119 days. And look at where he's at. This guy is physically in the shape of his life, but I've picked this up over the years. This is a guy, and I mean this in the best sense of the word, but he picks his battles. Spesifiek toe hy by die Sharks was. Hy het deur tye gegaan wat mense hom gekritiseer het. Ja, hy's onfiks of hy's oorgewig of wat ook al. At those times, he was busy in a cycle of getting into peak form or in prime condition rather to, for the Rugby Championship or for whatever, like the British Lions series. You cannot perform at top level all the time. You need to manage your body, and Sia has been doing this brilliantly. Brilliant. And again, now you can see it. He's in the form, he's in the shape of his life. And the form will follow. We've already seen it now, last week on Saturday. So ja, nee, maar Angus sy kapteinskap ook, jy weet, hy steek die spelers aan op die veld. Hy steek hy vonk aan daarvoor. Dis eenvoudig so. En ja, ek meen jy het 'n ou soos Dwayne Vermeulen wat 'n uitstekende kaptein is en ook uitstekend was in Sia se afwesigheid. Maar hy is nie Sia nie. Ons kan dit maar vir mekaar sê. Jy kon dit sien. Jy gaan dit môre aand weer sien.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Give the man his flowers while he's still here. Lastly, before we wrap up, just remember we got our Super Blue pool going for the Rugby World Cup. So go on our social media pages, check it out. The Losgemaal, as you can see there as well. If you haven't liked the pages yet, please do and follow us there for any good content as well. And yeah, play along, and there's a Rugby Magazine subscription on the line, so it might be a bit more prizes going forward as well. But yeah, follow us there and see if you know your rugby and how far you can get in the competition. But guys, Dylan, Lenin, what an honor, what a pleasure once again. Good having you guys here. Thanks again for your time. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. To everyone who tuned in tonight, bye dankie. Dat word baie waardeer in Kosi if any Kosa users watch as well tonight. But yeah, thanks for tuning in tonight, guys, and have a good one. Cheers.